So I've been thinking about resolutions lately because from like a consumer standpoint and then a tech person standpoint and stuff, it's two completely different worlds. Because I remember when I first got into HD stuff and I was like, wow, so 720p is HD and 1080p is full HD. And standard definition it was like 480i, but extended standard definition was like 576. And there's just all these different resolutions coming out because when HD was first coming out, there's still kind of throwing some stuff out there, seeing what would stick. And I remember the first time, at least in the US, because they had widescreen TVs like in the UK and stuff with standard definition, but in the US, once you had a widescreen TV, it was automatically high definition. And so when we had the widescreen TVs, they had different resolutions that they were throwing at the wall. And then we settled on 1080p for probably a decade now. And now they're really trying to push 4K because it's like a 4-time upgrade and then it's 4K. And so the naming scheme kind of writes itself or whatever. And I've been thinking from the consumer standpoint, because back when it said 1080p, I would be talking to some of the huge tech people, because I wasn't a huge tech person back then like I am now, but I still kind of like tech, I was interested in tech, but I wasn't super knowledgeable. And so there was these computer gamers way back then who are like, oh, that's just a different resolution. We've been doing different resolutions for the longest time on computer monitors, And then so I started thinking back to that, because gaming kind of had to make the leap from 1080p to 4K based on like consumer demand, because based on like the mainstream consumer stuff, it just went 1080p 4K, and it was 4 times the bandwidth and everything. So it was pretty hard for some tech companies to keep up. But when it came to like actual computer and tech enthusiasts, people could do like 1080p and then 1600 by 1200 and 1440p and all this stuff. And so actually doing that huge jump, being pushed by consumers and now being pushed by PC gamers, and so PC gamers are forced to kind of jump to 4K too. It is kind of crazy to see how tech is trying to keep up, and to see the prices kind of jumping around and going up and going down and dealing with price, what is that called? Supply and demand and stuff. Because with tech, it is a lot different than many other marketplaces. So I really thought 4K would be like a stepping stone to 8K, because I did see all these videos of 8K before 4K even became kind of standard, or it's not even really standard now. It's hardly even mainstream right now, because we have like no 4K TV channels, barely getting 4K Blu-rays and stuff. Well, we've had them for like 2 years now or something, but still, we're barely catching up with 4K stuff. So I thought it would be like a 4K and then an 8K, but I didn't really realize that the stuff tech had to do to catch up to that 4K, really. And they're still barely trying to catch up to 8K, So it looks like we're going to 4K next instead of 8K, and the tech companies are trying to keep up, and the graphics card companies are saying that their next graphic cards are supposed to be able to do 4K gameplay even better than normal, because right now I have a GTX 1080 and that can do 4K gameplay with a lot of games, but it really depends on the game. It's not any game can go 4K. It depends on the game, on the textures, on the anti-aliasing, on the other extra effects, the lighting, and then that'll also affect with your frame rate to see how well your frame rate goes, because I can do 4K 60 FPS only sometimes if some settings are kind of lowered, but once all the settings are maxed, then it goes 4K like 30 FPS or something like that. And so there's always different instances that you have to kind of balance when you're gaming on a computer and when you want to go with 4K resolutions. Well, not even with just gaming on a computer, because remember, now 4K is trying to become mainstream, and they're trying to do it with console gaming, and they were really pushing it with the Xbox One X. They even kind of did it with the Xbox One S, PS4 Pro. They're like 4K, and technically can do 4K. Maybe the resolution will be set at 4K, but the native resolution, like the actual rendering resolution, won't be natively 4K. The frame rate will drop, the textures will be lowered, there will be like no anti-aliasing, although sometimes you don't really need anti-aliasing at such a higher resolution. But if you're like a real stickler and have good glasses and all that, you'd be like, fuck, I can see the little jaggies around the corner or something. But it's not that big of a deal. Textures, that's a different thing. Lighting is huge. And you know, I always think about special effects like the mists and the rain and all that. So there's just so much stuff to think about when it comes to just resolutions, and it's just one thing leads to another, and it's all connected. But I think I kind of rambled on here, went from resolutions to PC gaming and different stuff. So sorry about that. But if you kind of enjoyed this tech rant, it wasn't really a tech talk, you can give this video a thumbs up. And subscribe to my channel for more tech stuff, tech related talk. Maybe I'll do unboxings. Oh yeah, I do want to talk about, I do want to kind of review a computer monitor that I have, because it plays into the whole frame rate and resolution thing, because my graphics card can do 1080p 144 frames per second on this monitor, which I want to review in the future, or it can go 4K 60 frames per second. So there is always a juggling act. So I will be reviewing that monitor hopefully soon, and then you guys can see if you should buy it, if it's worth the price. But that's it. See you guys later.